The anniversary I'll never forget. I always believed that anniversaries were sacred. A time to reflect, reconnect, and reignite the flame. That's why, on our 7th wedding anniversary, I went all out. Reservations at her favorite rooftop restaurant, a handwritten letter folded neatly in my jacket pocket, and a necklace I knew she'd love. I left work early, excited like a teenager on prom night. But what I came home to wasn't the usual quiet hum of our cozy apartment or the scent of her perfume lingering in the air. It was silence. Her phone was buzzing on the counter. That was already strange. Jenna never left her phone out of sight. I glanced at it, instinctively. The screen lit up with a message. "I can't wait to see you again tonight. Last time was unforgettable." I froze. My stomach twisted. My heart pounded like a war drum. I wasn't supposed to see that. And yet, there it was. A name I didn't recognize. A message that shattered something inside me. I didn't move for what felt like minutes. My mind ran wild, trying to make sense of it. A joke? A mistake? Please, God, let it be a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Jenna walked in 15 minutes later, smiling, acting like everything was normal. I kissed her cheek and smiled back like a coward. That was the moment I decided I needed answers. And I was going to get them, no matter how much it hurt. I started digging. That night, while Jenna slept beside me, peacefully, as if nothing had happened, I lay wide awake, staring at the ceiling. Her phone was charging on her side of the bed, just out of reach. I couldn't stop thinking about that message. Every time I closed my eyes, the words flashed back like a neon sign in my brain. "I can't wait to see you again tonight." Again. Which meant it had already happened before. The next morning, I acted like everything was fine. I even thanked her for a perfect anniversary while making her coffee. She smiled and kissed my cheek like she always did. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. I needed proof. I needed more than just one message. When she left for work, I took her laptop from the living room. She rarely used it, but her iMessages were synced. I opened the app, hands shaking. It took seconds to find the thread. His name was Eric. And it wasn't just flirtation. There were dates, hotel rooms, pictures. Things I wish I could unsee. The worst part? She had lied right to my face. Multiple times. About work dinners, last-minute meetings, even a yoga retreat that never happened. I felt like my entire marriage had been ripped out from under me. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started documenting everything, dates, times, screenshots. If I was going to confront her, I wanted to be ready. And if she tried to lie her way out of it, I'd have the truth in my hands. That was the moment something in me changed. I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was a man on a mission. And I had no idea how dark things were about to get. His face was too familiar. I couldn't stop replaying everything in my mind, her late nights, the coldness that had crept into her voice over the past few months, the sudden interest in her appearance when she went out with the girls. I kept trying to remember when I first felt the shift. Was it after the new year? Or maybe earlier? Had I just ignored all the signs? But then something hit me like a brick. Eric. That name. It felt too familiar. I went back to her messages and scrolled through, looking for any clue, anything that might tell me who this guy really was. And then I saw it. A selfie. The two of them in a bar, clinking glasses. He was smirking. Cocky. Confident. But it wasn't just anyone. He was my co-worker. Eric Townsend. We weren't close friends, but we'd worked in the same office for 3 years. Shared drinks after long meetings. He'd even been to our house. Shook my hand. Looked me in the eyes. And the entire time, he was sleeping with my wife. I dropped the laptop. The sound echoed through the apartment. My fists were clenched so tight I could feel my nails cutting into my palms. I had to stop myself from driving to his place and doing something I'd regret. But again, I held back. Barely. Because now I wasn't just betrayed. I was humiliated. This wasn't just some stranger. This was someone I knew. Someone who pretended to be a friend. And that made it personal. So I made a decision. If they wanted to play this game behind my back, fine. But I was done playing fair. It was time to hit back, where it would hurt the most. The setup. I spent the next 2 days planning. I didn't go to work. I told Jenna I was sick, stomach bug or something, and she barely blinked. She left me with a kiss on the forehead and a cheerful "feel better, babe." before heading off to who knows where. Probably to him. I watched her walk out the door and felt a mix of rage and numbness that scared me. But I stayed focused. I had work to do. I called in a favor from a friend I trusted with my life, Nick. He's a quiet guy, tech-savvy, works in cybersecurity. I told him everything. No lies, no filters. I expected him to judge me, but instead, he said something I'll never forget. If you want to catch a liar, give them the rope to hang themselves. Nick helped me install hidden cameras in the apartment. Small ones, discreet, motion activated. I planted one in the living room, another in the bedroom, and one in the hallway near the front door. If Jenna was planning on sneaking Eric into my home, I'd have it all on video. No denials. No gaslighting. Then, I left a note on the fridge, saying I'd gone to my parents for a few days to rest. I packed a fake overnight bag and left it in the car. But I didn't go anywhere. I parked a few blocks away and waited. The first night, nothing. She stayed home alone, curled up on the couch, scrolling her phone. I watched the feed from my phone, heart racing every time she looked toward the door. The second night, though, everything changed. At 7:42 p.m., Eric showed up. He walked in like he owned the place. Like it was normal. My wife greeted him in lingerie. She laughed like a teenager sneaking out after curfew. They opened a bottle of wine. They kissed. Touched. Whispered. In my home. In our bed. I watched the whole thing in real time. And I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just hit record. Smile for the camera. I sat in my car that night, phone in hand, watching the two people who had destroyed my world laughing and drinking wine in the apartment I paid for. Every time Jenna touched him, every time she leaned in to kiss his neck, I felt something inside me fracture a little more. But I didn't look away. I needed to see it. I needed to remember this pain, because I wasn't going to react emotionally. I was going to respond strategically. The next morning, I backed up all the footage to multiple drives. I made copies, one for me, one for Nick, and one I hid somewhere no one would think to look. Just in case. I was done being the fool. I was done pretending not to see what was right in front of me. Now, it was her turn to squirm. That evening, I walked through the front door like nothing had happened. Jenna greeted me with a hug, asking if I felt better. I looked into her eyes, searching for any flicker of guilt, any hesitation. Nothing. She lied with the ease of a sociopath. "Oh, I missed you," she said, cupping my face in her hands. "House felt so empty without you." It took everything in me not to laugh in her face. I told her I brought something back from my parents, a box of old photos. She lit up, thinking I was just being sentimental. But what she didn't know was that I had slipped one of the flash drives into the bottom of the box, right beneath the pictures. And the next day, while she was at work, I paid a visit to Eric. At his job. I didn't yell. I didn't hit him. I just handed him an envelope with screenshots of his messages, a USB drive, and a note that said, "Smile. You're on camera." He turned white as a sheet. I didn't wait for his response. I just walked out. That was step one. And I was only getting started. She had no idea what was coming. After handing Eric that envelope, I expected some kind of retaliation, denial, a call, maybe even Jenna trying to defend him. But nothing. No calls. No texts. Just silence. At first, I thought maybe he hadn't opened it. But then I remembered the look on his face. No, he saw it. He knew. He was probably scrambling, panicking, wondering how much I knew, or worse, who else I'd told. That was exactly what I wanted. Jenna, on the other hand, was still playing house like nothing had changed. She kissed me every morning, smiled when we watched Netflix, even tried to initiate sex one night. I turned her down, saying I was stressed about work. Truth was, I couldn't even look at her without remembering her hands on him, her laughter echoing through our bedroom as if I didn't exist. But I stayed calm. I played my role. Because the next part of my plan required patience. I started documenting every expense Jenna made with our joint account. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, even spa visits she never mentioned. I needed the paper trail, proof for court if it came to that. Meanwhile, Nick helped me set up a private folder online, protected by layers of encryption. In it, I stored everything: messages, videos, receipts, voice memos I'd recorded after every interaction, capturing my thoughts while they were raw. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about control. I was building a case, not just to expose her, but to ruin her carefully constructed image of innocence. I wanted her to feel what I had felt: blindsided, betrayed, powerless. Then, one night, I finally got what I was waiting for. Eric texted her. I saw it on the synced laptop. He knows. I'm out. Don't contact me again. I read it 3 times. She read it once. And then she panicked. For the first time since this started, I saw her scared. It was beautiful. The beginning of her breakdown. The moment she saw that message from Eric, something shifted. Jenna's face went pale. She looked around the room like someone had just walked in and pointed a gun at her. Her hands trembled as she held her phone, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I saw her mask begin to crack. She didn't know I was watching her from the kitchen. I stood silently, sipping coffee, pretending to scroll through my phone, when really, I was studying her every move. She deleted the message. Then she sat down on the couch and stared at the wall for 10 minutes. No phone. No music. Just silence. I walked over casually. Everything okay? She flinched. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just tired, she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. That was the moment I knew she was spiraling. Eric had cut her off, and now she was completely alone. I didn't have to confront her, not yet. She was already unraveling, and I planned to let her fall apart piece by piece. Later that night, I heard her crying in the bathroom. Quiet, muffled sobs. I didn't go in. I just sat on the edge of the bed and waited. When she came out, her eyes were red. She crawled into bed beside me and curled up close, like nothing had happened. I'm so lucky to have you, she whispered. I stared at the ceiling. Lucky? She had no idea I had enough evidence to destroy her in divorce court. Adultery, financial misconduct, emotional abuse, I had it all. And now, I had leverage. But I wasn't going to file. Not yet. Because I wanted her to feel every second of this. I wanted her to question everything, what I knew, when I knew it, how far I was willing to go. The guilt would eat her alive. And I was going to watch her starve on it. The dinner invitation. A week went by. Jenna was different. Jumpier. Softer with me, like she was trying to rewind the clock on our marriage and pretend none of this had happened. She started cooking dinner more. Waking up earlier. Asking me questions about my day that she hadn't cared about in months. She even suggested we go away for the weekend together. Just the 2 of us, she said. To reconnect. I agreed. Not because I wanted to reconnect. But because I knew it would make her think I was letting my guard down. Then, I made a move she didn't see coming. I invited her parents over for dinner. They adored me. Always had. Her father once told me I was the best thing that ever happened to Jenna. I used to believe that. Now it made me sick. She hesitated when I told her about the dinner. Why so sudden? She asked. I just miss them, I said. It's been a while. She couldn't say no without looking suspicious. So she agreed. The day of the dinner, I printed out a handful of selected screenshots, just enough to make her sweat. I didn't show everything. I didn't even label them. I slipped them into a plain white envelope and placed it inside the drawer where I kept the wine opener, knowing she'd go for it right before dinner. And she did. I watched her from the hallway as she opened the drawer, saw the envelope, and pulled it out. Her face dropped. I saw her lips move, reading the messages, the timestamps, the hotel names. She looked around like the walls might be watching. Then she tucked the envelope into her purse and acted like nothing had happened. Dinner that night was surreal. She poured wine with shaking hands while her mom talked about retirement plans. Her dad asked if we were thinking about kids. Jenna smiled so hard I thought her face might split open. I just sat back, listening. Watching. She was unraveling right in front of them, and they didn't even know it. But she knew I knew. And that was the beginning of the end. I saw the fear in her eyes. 3 days after the dinner, Jenna broke. She came home early from work, eyes puffy, makeup streaked, breathing uneven. I was in the living room, pretending to read, when she dropped her purse, walked straight over, and stood in front of me like a ghost. "We need to talk," she said. I closed the book slowly. About what? Her hands were shaking. About us. About things I haven't been honest about. I looked at her, waiting. I wanted to see what she'd say. Would she come clean? Admit everything? Try to spin it? She sat down beside me, staring at her hands like they were covered in blood. I haven't been a good wife lately, she began. Her voice cracked. I've made mistakes. Big ones. And I think you deserve to know. I tilted my head. What kind of mistakes? She couldn't even say it. She just started crying. Real tears. But I wasn't moved, not anymore. I was studying her. Calculating. She finally choked out, I was with someone else. I waited a beat. Then I whispered, Eric? Her eyes widened. I'd never said his name out loud. Not once. And now she knew, without a doubt, that I knew everything. She stared at me like a child who'd been caught stealing. I didn't mean for it to happen, she rushed to say. It was stupid. A moment of weakness. It's over now. I ended it. I swear. You ended it? I asked quietly. Or did he end it? She looked like I'd punched her in the chest. That silence told me everything. She wasn't sorry. She was cornered. I stood up. Walked to the kitchen. Poured myself a drink while she sat there crying on the couch. I didn't comfort her. I didn't yell. I just said, there's more you don't know. But you will. And then I went to bed. Alone. Truth has a way of spreading. The next morning, Jenna was already up when I walked into the kitchen. She looked like she hadn't slept, her eyes were bloodshot, and her hair was still in the messy bun from last night. She was making pancakes. Like that would fix anything. I didn't say a word. Just poured my coffee and sat down. She placed a plate in front of me like we were still pretending, but the silence between us had a weight to it now. Thick. Tense. Can we talk? She asked softly. I kept my eyes on my coffee. We already did. She sat across from me, biting her lip. You said there's more I don't know. What did you mean? I looked up. Held her gaze. Then I reached into the folder I had prepped and slid a single printed screenshot across the table. It was a photo, Eric, shirtless in our bed, smiling. Jenna's hand was in the frame, resting on his chest. She looked at it like it might catch fire. I know about the hotels. The dinners. The fake yoga retreat. I know everything, Jenna. She looked like she might throw up. But that's not all, I continued. You know Eric works with me, right? He has a wife. Jenna's face went blank. Her name is Danielle, I said. She doesn't know. Yet. That hit her like a train. She stood up suddenly. Wait, please. Please don't bring her into this. This was between us. I laughed. I actually laughed. No, Jenna. You made it between 4 people when you decided to blow up 2 marriages. She sat back down, stunned. I pulled out my phone. Opened the email I had drafted but hadn't sent. To Danielle Townsend. I turned the screen toward her. Should I hit send? She gasped. You're going to destroy her. She deserves to know, I said flatly. Jenna's eyes filled with tears again. But I wasn't moved. I was tired of her tears. Tired of her guilt only showing up when it affected her. You lit the match, I said. Now you're just watching the house burn. I stood up and left the room. The email was still open. And Jenna was finally starting to realize just how far I was willing to go. Fallout. I didn't send the email that morning. Not because Jenna begged me not to. Not because I had a change of heart. But because I wanted her to feel the dread every second she breathed. I wanted her to wake up every day wondering, did he send it? Will today be the day she finds out? It was power. And for the first time in months, I had it. But I didn't wait long. 3 days later, I sent it. The email was simple. No dramatic storytelling, no emotional paragraphs, just the facts. Screenshots of messages. Pictures. Dates. Times. A subject line that read, You deserve the truth. Less than 12 hours later, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. Is this Jenna's husband? A woman's voice. Cold. Steady. Yes, I said. This is Danielle Townsend. She didn't waste time. I saw what you sent. I believe you. Thank you for not letting me live in the dark any longer. We talked for 20 minutes. She told me they had 2 kids. That she'd suspected something, but Eric had gaslighted her every time. That she was going to confront him and leave. She didn't cry. She was calm. Calculated. kind of like me. And by the end of the call, she said something I'll never forget. You and I aren't victims. We're survivors. And survivors don't stay silent. That stuck with me. That same evening, Jenna came home late. She looked pale, drained. She dropped her purse and walked in like a condemned woman. She called me, Jenna whispered. I didn't respond. She's leaving him, she added. I nodded. Good. Jenna broke down. Full collapse. On the floor, sobbing. Saying she was sorry. That she didn't know why she did it. That it was a mistake. But I'd heard it all before. The words didn't matter. She didn't realize that by the time she walked in the door, I had already spoken to a lawyer. I had already made an appointment to close our joint accounts. I had already made a copy of the lease in my name only. And I had already packed half of her belongings into boxes. This wasn't a discussion anymore. It was the end. Boxes by the door. She was still sitting on the floor when I told her. I've already spoken to a lawyer, I said, my voice steady. You'll be served within the week. She looked up at me like I'd just hit her. What? No, please. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy, I'll do anything. You had your chance, I cut in. Every lie. Every time you smiled in my face after being with him. That was your fix. You chose this. She crawled toward me, actually got on her knees. Don't throw everything away. We've built a life together. I made a mistake, but I love you. No, Jenna. You love control. You loved having someone on the side while I held everything together. But now you don't get that anymore. Her face crumbled. She looked around and finally noticed what I had done. Boxes. Neatly taped. Labeled. Her things, half of the closet, her books, toiletries, even the stupid mug she always insisted on using every morning, already packed. When did you? While you were at work. While you were texting him. While you were pretending to care. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. I didn't feel satisfaction. Not joy. Just peace. A calm that I hadn't felt in months. This isn't who I am, she whispered. I lost myself. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I looked at her for a long time. No. This is who you are. You just didn't think you'd get caught. She didn't respond. I stood up and walked into the kitchen. There, taped to the fridge, was a printed list of storage units nearby. One of them was already reserved in her name. I'd made sure of it. I pointed to the list. You have 1 week. After that, anything left here gets tossed. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. For once, she had nothing left to say. And I realized, this wasn't just about ending the marriage. It was about reclaiming myself. The secret within the silence. Over the next few days, the apartment grew quieter. No more fake apologies. No more tense breakfasts. Jenna moved like a ghost, packing in silence, eyes red, voice barely above a whisper. She didn't beg anymore. I think, deep down, she knew it was over. I slept in the guest room. Locked the bedroom door. Changed all my passwords. Closed the joint account and opened one in my name. I even got a new phone number. I was cutting her out like raw. But then something strange happened. On her second to last night in the apartment, I woke up around 3 a.m. and found her sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by open boxes and old photo albums. She didn't notice I was watching. She was holding a picture of us at our wedding, her thumb gently brushing the edge of the frame. I almost felt something. But then I noticed her phone on the floor beside her, recording. That's when the chill ran down my spine. I watched her from the hallway as she began to speak softly, almost rehearsed. I never meant to hurt him. I was lost. Eric made me feel something I thought I'd forgotten. I stepped into the light. She jumped, and the performance stopped immediately. What are you doing? I asked. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She reached for the phone, but I was faster. I picked it up and stopped the recording. Practicing for court? I asked coldly. Or just trying to get ahead of the narrative? She didn't answer. I already have the evidence, I reminded her. You don't get to rewrite this. She looked like she wanted to scream. But she didn't. She just picked up a framed photo, smashed it on the edge of a box, and stormed into the bedroom. That was the moment I knew, this wasn't regret. It was damage control. Even now, at the end, she was still thinking about how to spin it. But I had all the cards. And I wasn't done playing. The final move. The next morning, the air was heavy with tension. The kind you can't cut, only survive. Jenna didn't say a word as she packed the last of her boxes. I watched from the hallway, arms crossed, waiting. She didn't look at me. Didn't try to speak. She was pale, trembling slightly, like a person walking into a courtroom knowing the verdict was already written. At 9:17 a.m., her rideshare pulled up. She wheeled out the first suitcase in silence. Then she stopped by the door. Looked back. "You really won't even talk to me?" she asked. "I did," I said. "You just never listened." Her eyes welled up again, but I was long past the point of caring about her tears. She stepped out the door, slowly, and I didn't follow. But just before it shut, I slid one last envelope into her hand. "What's this?" she asked, frowning. "My final move," I said. Then I closed the door. Inside the envelope was a printed copy of a notarized affidavit I had sent to both our lawyers. It clearly laid out every incident of her affair, every bank transaction, every instance of marital misconduct, with dates, photos, and testimony. But that wasn't all. There was also a letter. Just one page. It said, "This is not about revenge. This is about truth. And truth, unlike people, doesn't lie." I stood by the window and watched her read it on the curb. Her mouth dropped slightly, and I saw her knees weaken. Then she climbed into the car and disappeared. Just like that. She was gone. The apartment was quiet now. No fake laughter. No whispered phone calls behind my back. Just silence. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like peace. Freedom tastes like silence. It's been 3 weeks since Jenna left. The boxes are gone. Her scent has faded from the pillows. The bed feels bigger now, but not emptier. Just mine again. My space. My home. The first few nights were strange. I kept waking up expecting to hear her footsteps, or the soft ping of a message from Eric when she thought I was asleep. But there was nothing. And nothing never felt so good. The divorce is underway. My lawyer says we're in a strong position, because I documented everything. And because I never lost control. That was the key. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't throw punches or sink into despair. I planned. I observed. I let her unravel herself. It's funny, people always talk about betrayal as this fiery explosion, something sudden and loud. But what they don't talk about is the after. The quiet. The slow rebuilding. The realization that what you thought was love was just routine. Familiarity. And that maybe, just maybe, losing her was the best thing that could have happened to me. I don't hate Jenna. Not anymore. I just don't believe in the version of her I used to love. I've started going out again. Seeing friends I hadn't made time for. I even reconnected with my brother, who I hadn't spoken to in almost a year. Turns out, healing doesn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes, it comes from choosing yourself, again and again. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's this. Pay attention. Trust your gut. And never, ever settle for someone who treats loyalty like a game. Because once the truth comes out, it doesn't just set you free. It buries them. And I'm finally free. If you made it this far, and the story hit home for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's more to come. And trust me. The next story? You won't see it coming.